Wendi Wilkins, and she's going to talk to us about more resources for the back office. So welcome, Wendi. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Elkie, and good afternoon, everybody. So like Elkie had said, I'm going to be talking about 316 today and kind of how we can support your additional support for your retirement plan. So let's get right in it here. So the first thing we're going to do is obviously I'm going to talk about me. So as Elkie had said, I work within several financial companies for about 20 years. Yeah, I guess that makes me a little on the old side. So I started my investments, my experience at Putnam Investments, and then I moved to a couple of other financial companies, John Hancock, I was there for quite a bit, Fidelity, and then I also got into Liberty Mutual and did a little bit of it on the insurance side there. I live in Nashua, New Hampshire, so it's a very chilly this morning. It was 34 degrees when I woke up. I am married with a wonderful husband and a wonderful 13-year-old son, Teddy. My mom also lives with us, so yeah, we have a kind of a hectic household. And then, of course, here's my lovely dog, Scout. He is a Norwegian elk hound, and he is pictured at one of our favorite spots, and that's Lake Winnipesaukee. That's about an hour and a half north of me, and we spend a lot of time there on the summer, and that's where our Elkie will be, our Scout, manning the helm there of our boat. So anyways, that's a little bit about me. So let's get into the team. So this is the team that I work in. So this is the fiduciary studio. This is my 316 team. So I have a wonderful manager. Her name is Leslie Draper. She's very supportive of her team, of us, and she's very supportive, obviously, of all the clients that we have. I work directly with Shauna McClellan. She's also a 316 consultant. And Lucinda Elkie, she is also a 316 consultant, and of course myself. And then we have two supporting staffs, and that's Lily Rodriguez, and then we have Shanna Henderger. I'm terrible with names. What's interesting about this slide, which is really kind of cool, is I've been here for a few years, and I was actually the third hire for this team. And then we brought in two more people, and then we got a nice manager in here. So it's really nice to see the growth. We're still getting plans as well. I just had a meeting today to go over some new business stuff. So it's just nice to see this growth. It really, truly is. So that's our team. So one thing I just want to talk about right off the bat, and I know Elkie talked about it a little bit, but again, so really this is kind of the compliance piece, right? So, what is 316 fiduciary? So a 316 fiduciary kind of works with the plan sponsor to ensure that the plan is created and managed according to the criteria set forth by ERISA. So again, that's what we're going to do. We're going to be that fiduciary for you and support you in your plan. So let's just move forward. So one of the things I really like to talk about, and so being part of my job, like I had mentioned earlier, is the new business piece. So I really talk about this a lot. So the fiduciary studio, our 316 way, is really, it's like a partnership. Like we have to have support on both sides. You have to have it from me, and I have to have it from you. So that's a word that I'm definitely going to be saying a lot throughout the presentation. So what we do, the 316, we support the plan sponsors' day-to-day processes. We support their administrative work, and we also support the compliance requirement. Again, that's going to be throughout as well, because that's really one of the most important things. And one of the things that you as plan sponsors really want to make sure that your plan is adhering to all of the compliance requirements. And that's one thing, again, that we do really support you in that regard. So let's just move on. So another thing that I just really wanted to talk about here, because it's one of the things that people can be a little bit confused on. So we have Definiti, and then we have the fiduciary studio. So Definiti is kind of like, we work directly with them, but we're kind of like part of the department, if you could say. And within Definiti, so Definiti is that third-party administrative piece. So your RPCA kind of fits in that bucket on that side. I'm just going to call it a side, even though, we're all together, but we'll just call it that side. And then on the other side is that 316, which is my team. We both work together. So your RPCA on the TPA side, and then my team, the 316 people on the other side. So we work together to support your plan. But here are some of the roles, the definitive different roles of each bucket, right? So on the TPA side, which again is that RPCA role or RPC role, excuse me, they'll be doing basically that plan design consulting. They'll do plan document notices, annual administration, sending out those year-end questionnaires that all plan sponsors love. And that works into performing that non-discrim testing for you as well. They do create the 5500 form and participant withdrawal services as well. Now on the 316 side, so this is my bucket. So we're the co-fiduciary on the administrative issues. We track eligibility. We upload payrolls to the custodian website. So the custodian website, so that would be John Hancock, Fidelity, America Funds. That's what I mean there. And we also ensure that your plan documents are up to date. So if I'm sending out an enrollment email and I notice the SPD is a little, on the older side, I'll definitely make sure I get an updated copy to make sure everything's fresh. And we also distribute notices if applicable. We review your annual administration for completeness, and we do sign your 5500. So that's one thing we do take the place of the plan sponsor as well. And we also ensure that payrolls are processed in a timely manner, because that's pretty critical, right? And then we also approve participants' withdrawals. So that would be loans or distributions. Again, that's one thing that we take away from the plan sponsor, to one thing that's off your plate that you don't have to worry about. So hopefully that helps explain the two kind of pieces a little bit. So let's just move on to the next piece. This is, I really wanted to get into payroll specifically. So these are all kind of the roles so this is, I know we're talking about this in a slide presentation, but this is my job. So I just want you to understand that this is what I do and what the team does and will be doing for you. So obviously payroll monitoring. So the fiduciary studio, or TFS there, just to make it a little easier, so I don't have to say that long word, will access that custodian website of yours. Again, could be Empower, Fidelity, John Hancock. And we do that in a timely manner, obviously within your payroll frequency. So if you have a weekly or a semi, we just make sure we go in there on that weekly basis if it's weekly. And we just make sure all of that payroll has been uploaded and all the money types and the sources are accurate. And we also ensure that all the payrolls are loaded again in a timely manner, because that's critical. We will alert the TPA and the plan sponsor when payrolls are not loaded timely or consistently. I had some examples in the past would be, so we were monitoring a client's payroll and everything was weekly at the time. So we were seeing obviously the payrolls on a weekly basis. And then a couple of weeks went by and we didn't see any. We didn't really get too nervous. But then all of a sudden we started to notice on a monthly basis that they just started to load on a monthly basis. So that kind of set a red flag off to us, like, hey, what's going on? So again, we'd reach out to the RPC on the TPA side just to make sure that maybe the plan sponsor told them that potentially they switched from a weekly to a monthly payroll. And that's great. Then we have our answer. Then we know we can, okay, everything's great. There are no issues. But then if they're not aware of it, then we reach out to the plan sponsor just to make sure that they didn't change frequencies. And more so or not, that's the case. They change frequencies and we just update on our end, and then we kind of move forward once we get that updated answer. And we also make sure that this will keep your plan compliant when we're monitoring payrolls, and you'll never have to click that box on the 5500 that notes you had a late deposit, because nobody wants to click that box. So that's a little bit on payroll monitoring. And then another thing we do within the payroll realm is obviously we do payroll uploads. So again, we bridge that gap between that payroll company that you have. We work with a lot of them, like Paylocity, Payroll, Paycom, everyone, ADP. We work with several, and there's more. There's quite a few payroll processing companies out there. So again, we work with the payroll processing and your custodian, again, John Hancock or Empower, to bridge that payroll gap. So that's kind of what we do. The plan sponsor can elect for us to access their payroll company if they'd like. Sometimes people have their payroll and they're working in great, everything's great now, it's in-house and it's going great. Fine, absolutely, no problem. Keep it as it is. But if you do want us to take over that, we can. So again, that would be giving us access to your payroll company. We'll go in there, like the next bullet says, we'll extract that payroll file. We'll load that payroll file, if you'd like, onto your custodian website. So again, bridging that gap. And again, we'll ensure and make sure that data is accurate and timely. If there are any issues, we will work with the parties to resolve them quickly and efficiently. So sometimes it'll be just to have us on the call would be beneficial. Let's say we're going up against your payroll company or the custodians. Always good to have us on the call. We can always, I don't want to say back you up, but we can always provide additional support if needed. And sometimes our voice can kind of be heard a little bit louder, if that makes any sense. So again, doing all these things, this reduces your time to spend on these issues, right? And to ensure that your payroll data is accurate. And again, this is going to save you time and money. And this is what we do. This is what we do for you. So let's just move on to the next topic. Eligibility defined. So we do a lot of our work will circle around eligibility. So we determine your participants' eligibility based on your plan's eligibility requirements and your plan's frequency. So one of the typical plan requirements would be age 21, and then a year of service or 1,000 hours, whichever is met first. And then obviously a plan's frequency would be either monthly, semi-annually, or quarterly. So this is what we do. We determine that, and we partner with you to determine the eligibility. So what I would do, I perform your eligibility calculation. I determine who's eligible for, let's say, if you're monthly for that month. I communicate those findings with you. I don't just operate in a vacuum. I let you know who I found out, Joe Smith or Sally Joe, whoever, or how many they're deemed to be. And then I ask you in an email, I send everything out. It's all ready to go. And I just let you know that, hey, I just did your calculation for 10-1, and you have 5 participants that are eligible. But I just want you to confirm the hours for me, and also confirm, did they term? Like maybe they termed like 2 weeks ago and it wasn't updated in the report that I pulled. So these are the things that, again, we partner, right? It's a big partnership to make sure that all the things are correct. And that's one thing we do ask you for eligibility requirements, is to authorize those findings that we present to you. Now, when everything is in good order, another thing that we do, we distribute your required enrollment materials. So enrollment materials could be obviously your enrollment kit or your guide, all the applicable notices that it's required for a newly eligible person to provide. So we send that to them in any format that is required, either an email or hard copy, or sometimes the plan sponsor wants to deliver all these things themselves, so they can sit down with that participant and talk about everything, and to keep that, the goal, right, of all of us is to let that retirement plan grow, and let it just be nice and robust and something that you can talk about with your participants. So when the plan's eligibility is complete, and then that month is fine. If it's on a monthly basis, we'll go in and get ready for the next month, or monthly again, or semi-annually or quarterly. So again, eligibility is very critical to keep you compliance as well. And we take that that's really what we do. We'll hold that. That will be something that we calculate for you. So again, that's just another thing of saving you time and money. And the next thing I always like to talk about is census data. I just love data. Let me tell you, I deal with data all the time, constantly, spreadsheets and whatnot. So it's so critical for all your data in your payroll company, and then in your custodian. Everything has to be really accurate in order for us to have that payroll monitoring and eligibility calculations accurate. So if I don't have good data in, right? So good data, bad data in, you get bad data out. So you just got to make sure that everything is updated accordingly. That's pretty critical, I would think. Now we will alert you if something seems awry within that data. So one of the examples that I put on the slide, if you have a participant's information that was duplicated, because that's the one that I see a lot of. And if that's the case, I always alert the plan sponsor, because I do know that when you have, what the result of duplicating a participant's information. So, and that could be, I'm going to go back a little bit. So when you're entering participants' information, it's very easy to fat finger something, right? So the majority of the time is it's a social security that was fat fingered, those last two numbers, right? So that's when a duplicate is created. So you do want to clean that up right away. Get with that custodian. You might have to merge accounts. So the more that lingers, the worse it could be, but it could become. So that's why it's important that we alert you for those discrepancies. And we'll also alert you for if there's a date of birth missing, a date of hire, term dates. Those are things that are critical for us to build that eligibility calculation. If I don't have data hire, I clearly cannot tell you if this person's eligible or not, right? It's kind of that simple. So if that data is missing, I'll let you know that as well before I can perform the calculation. And another thing that I kind of didn't leave on this slide that is kind of critical on your side for the plan sponsor, if you have any rehire information, it's critical to tell us when you have rehires. So that way, and some businesses are really big on there's a lot of seasonal, so they have a lot of rehires, and some are not. It's really kind of a night and day situation. If you have rehires, you generally have a lot of them. If you don't have rehires, then you probably don't have any at all. But again, we ask that you send us all your rehire participants, so that way I can go in if I need to send them out additional enrollment materials, again, to get them back in that plan because they were obviously termed, and you're bringing them back in. So you want to make sure you have them enrolled. So again, like I said, all the data needs to be correct before we calculate any eligibility. And again, so we're just that extra set of eyes, always keeping you compliant and safe. And that's what we're here to do for you. So sorry if I pounded that a lot, but census data is a really big deal for me. All right, so I'm going to move on to another thing that we provide to you is we authorize your distributions. So obviously a distribution being terminations, hardships, and loans. So we take the place of the plan sponsor in this case. We take the responsibility to determine if the participant is allowed to take a distribution, because sometimes there are plans that don't allow loans or don't allow hardship. So that's like kind of a step one, right? Is it authorized to do this? Is a distribution allowed for the plan? Does a participant have enough funds to take out a loan if that's what they're taking for a distribution? So there are a lot more other things that we do, but these are the things that we do to ensure that that distribution is accurate and correct. And if it is all correct, we authorize the distribution. The plan sponsor is not required to get involved at all. So we have that workflow that's kind of determined from the custodian side, and it flows right into us. So depending on the size of your plan, so you have a lot of terms or not terms or distributions or hardships or loans. If you have a lot of them, this is going to save you a significant amount of time, and it's going to save you money because you won't be worrying about that. That'll be our piece that we do for you. So that's just a little bit on distributions. So now we're going to talk about notices. So notices is also a big function for us. So these are kind of the notices that we do deliver. Year-end notices, I'm in the thick of that right now. Eligibility notices, which is what I kind of talked about throughout, when we talked about eligibility. So an eligibility notice would be obviously those emails that I'll be sending to the participants to alert them when they're eligible. So again, that enrollment kit, the fee notice, auto enrollment if you have that on your policy, on your plan. So those are the things that we've been doing for eligibility notices. Fund updates or changes. Now, obviously, any custodian can have a fund update or change. If you have John Hancock usually does them twice a year, and that's something we just do. We know they're coming out. The plans that are affected, our R316 plans that are affected, we let all of our clients know that, hey, these funds are coming out, these changes are coming up for John Hancock. Either it's a fund name or maybe they changed their percentage of what they're investing in or whatnot, but it is a fund change. And because of that, it needs to be alerted to all the participants. So again, we do that for you. And it doesn't have to be from John Hancock. If it's from Empower or any of the other fund companies, again, John Hancock, Lincoln, T. Rowe, anything we can handle. We just have to create that email, get the notice, get your approval, and then we're good to go. And another thing that we'll do, we'll determine who is required to receive a notice. But again, it's all that partnership. We partnership with you to ensure the partnership, that the participant is accurate to receive this, that their address, their email, or their mailing address is all correct. So that way, again, it goes to the correct person. We send out those notices for the plan sponsor, again, saving you time and money. So notices can be kind of, a kind of thrown in a plan sponsor's side. So that's just something that we do, like the year-end notices that we're doing now. We're going out to all of our plans for 316 plans, and we're compiling the list of the active people. And I'm getting into the weeds a little bit, but we'll compile a list of the active participants, and we'll compile the list of the terms that are not in the plan anymore, but they do have funds still in the plan. So for compliance reasons, you do have to send them all these required year-end notices. So that's kind of what we're doing now. So kind of, again, you're saving that time and money, and you don't have to worry about the notice piece anymore, which is kind of a good thing.